Welcome back to the Resurgence Athletics podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Goodell,
I'm Dr. Lucas Noguera.
and we're on episode 9.
Episode 9.
Talking about sodium bicarbonate, or also known as...
Baking soda.
You got it. Baking soda. That stuff in your kitchen that you might be familiar with, but has amazing sports performance and enhancement effects. Have you heard about any of the athletes using sodium bicarbonate?
I have, yeah, in the Olympics actually, right? We were talking about the 800-meter sprint.
Yeah.
We saw a few of the Olympians using it for that.
800-meter sprint. For those who don't know, we're going to go down a little trip down memory lane of science class in chemistry. I guess in its most fundamental form, you would be familiar with this acid-base reaction.
Yep.
Remember the volcanoes growing up? With the little paper mache, you put the vinegar and baking soda in there, and then it foams up and explodes, right? So, and then that's a neutralizing reaction. So pH is normal again. Yep. Similar things go on in our body when we're exercising, because we are all familiar with lactic acid, which is that burning sensation that you feel when you're exercising, which a common misconception with lactic acid, we're going to myth bust now, is people get confused with lactic acid, or at least they used to, with delayed onset muscle soreness.
Sure.
You remember people saying, oh, I'm so sore after my workout, I have all this lactic acid I need to get out of my system. That is wrong. So absolutely wrong. That's not lactic acid. It's actually DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness. Lactic acid is cleared out of your system pretty quickly when you stop moving, because your circulatory system just pumps it out. And the DOMS is just little micro tearing of the muscle fibers. So it's a little inflammatory response that you're feeling. That's what the muscle soreness is. So it's not lactic acid. But back to lactic acid. Okay.
Right. You just cringe when you hear that. I can see
that bothers me. That's like internally just makes my heart cringe. I'm like, no, that's not right.
Next workout, I'm like, this lactic acid, man. You know,
you go for that nice long run to get the lactic acid out of your system. You keep thinking
with the help of some sodium bicarbonate.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get into that. Lactic acid is, as the name implies, a lactic acid is an acid.
Sure.
So it has a low pH. Sodium bicarbonate is a base. So you have acids and bases, and if the base interacts with an acid, it helps to neutralize or buffer that acid, right? Getting into the physiology of a muscle, right? Like, you start exercising, you want to go through the cascade of events. So say you're in an all-out sprint, right? If we go through the exercise or muscle metabolism during that process, and the first part of that energy metabolism is your creatine phosphate system. Your creatine phosphate system is that burst of energy right out the gate. That's like 0 to 10-ish seconds. You're going to burn that up really fast, right? That's just the ATP, the adenosine triphosphate, right in the muscle, immediately available. And then we start to get into that range of, like, now we have to shift energy systems, like shifting up a gear, right?
Yeah.
You got to switch to your carbohydrate stores, which is the glycogen in the muscle itself. It's more readily available, but the byproduct of that process is lactic acid accumulation. Beyond that, you start to shift towards your aerobic system, or beta oxidation, which is your fat metabolism, which can sustain you for a long period of time. But there's no lactic acid accumulation because your circulatory system's clearing it out. It's just as fast as it's accumulating. So that there's a lactic threshold that if you're above it, you're clearing it out. If you're below it, it's accumulating, right?
Yeah.
So if you exert yourself enough, you are starting to accumulate this lactic acid. And so someone, I don't know who discovered this, they were like, hey, if I take this alkaline solution, which is the sodium bicarbonate, and I eat it, it's going to neutralize the lactic acid accumulation, right? So as the lactic acid accumulates in your muscle, it begins to shut down some of the physiological processes of the muscles. It's basically a safety mechanism to make sure you don't overexert yourself and hurt yourself. But as people do, they are innovative, and they found a way around this. So the dosage for sodium bicarbonate, do you remember what the dosage was that we were looking
I
at?
think it was 0.3 kilograms.
0.3, well, kilograms of sodium
Kilograms of
bicarbonate.
sodium
You'd be
per-
eating bricks of it.
Yes.
0.3 grams. So say, for example, you're 200 pounds. That comes out to like 27-ish grams of sodium bicarbonate. So you would mix that up into like some water or something, or you just spoon it into your mouth. Now, the problem...
It has to be... What's the catch?
Yes. So there is a catch. And we were talking about this a little bit before. Do you remember the catch here? Do you want to explain it?
I think it was some GI discomfort. And
Yep.
So
that layman's terms, GI discomfort is what the medical people call it, but in layman's terms, that is called explosive diarrhea. So not good. People do not like that side effect. In the article that I saw, they were talking about the 800 meters. It was a Wall Street Journal article. They were talking about the 800-meter Olympic race in Paris. Half of the participants in this race are taking this sodium bicarbonate, but they're taking one specifically through this company. I believe they're called Martin, which is based out of Sweden, I believe. This product gets rid of the GI distress.
So they found a way to bypass it.
Yeah, supposedly there's no GI distress associated with this. I did a little digging on their website. So, I mean, it's a more expensive product. For a serving of 4, I think, was like $70 for 4 servings. So 4 uses, $70. That's getting up there. Yeah. Half of the 800-meter athletes were using this. Yeah. So
has to help.
And it does. This is actually something that is backed by research that it does, and it's totally legal. That's the other part too. This is a legal substance to use. Same thing as caffeine in certain doses, right? You basically take this and it helps buffer that reaction in the lactic acid accumulation so you can sustain a high exercise intensity for a longer duration of time. This specifically is for your lactic acid accumulation. If you're a marathon runner, let's say, do you think this would be effective?
Probably not.
Because back to those points that we brought up before, with marathon running, you're below your lactic threshold because it's a longer duration exercise. So taking that perspective, what types of events or activities do you think would be good for this type of compound?
A shorter sprint, if you're doing a cycle sprint, something like that, or swim.
Yep.
For a shorter duration, like we mentioned, that's when you'd probably see the benefit from the sodium bicarbonate.
And so what I had seen was it looks like this is most effective in, running is probably the most objective way to put this for that 800-meter range, right? So at 400 meters, if you're a fast runner, that takes you about 45, 50 seconds. That's like a pretty elite runner, right? But right about that point, you're hitting your lactic threshold. So you're not going to see much benefit yet from that. So it's kind of beyond that 45, 60 second. I'd say beyond that 60-second marker where you're getting that high accumulation of lactic acid, which kind of gets us back to that realm of that 800-meter range. And it looks like the world record was like, 1 minute and 40 seconds based on what we saw for the 800 meters, which is flying. That seems to be where this sodium bicarbonate compound does its most significant effect. It has its most significant effect in that time frame. I believe there's a time frame to take it prior to. Did you see the time frame on that?
It was like an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah, because it's got to get kind of digested into your system, and then you go participate in whatever sport event you're going to do. So I guess the effect, I don't know how long the effect lasts for, right? How quickly do you burn through it? When you've ingested it? That's another question to dive into. So do you need to dose it again? Or like, I guess this would be in that realm of a very specific type of sport and duration of the event, right? So if it's too short of duration, you're probably not going to get much benefit. If you're throwing like a shot put, let's say, probably not getting much of that. If you're like a jumper or anything like that, but if you also are doing an event that's too long, it's not going to help either. So it's such a narrow window of time and opportunity. But I guess it would just give you that little boost that you need. So maybe in some applications, this would be pretty beneficial. Useful. And clearly, it looks like a lot of athletes are using this now, and they're all their times are kind of creeping down. And it is backed in the research that this works. So we might have to try out this this product here. So Martin, if you want to sponsor this podcast, hello, if you're listening. We're looking for a sponsor, so you could maybe sponsor this podcast if you want. I'm interested to know if anybody out there has tried this and to see if it's worked for them. Because it did seem that it's not the same results for everybody. Okay. And I guess that gets into maybe more of your like personal physiology, because we know everyone's a little different. Yeah. Everybody's stomach is a little bit different too. So depending on how they tolerate the supplement or just taking the sodium bicarbonate straight up, I think might change things.
Are there any other like supplements out there that can kind of give this athletes the same effect sodium bicarbonate?
I think there was another one, but it also operates under the same principle. Yeah. It's an alkaline solution, so it helps buffer the lactic acid accumulation. Yeah. But I think they all kind of run into the same problem with the side effect of GI distress. So
bloating, nauseousness, all of those also play a factor.
Yeah. So the one product seems to be the one that's kind of the gold standard right now. But you could also just eat it straight up if you want to try your luck.
Don't recommend that.
But yeah, let's see if anybody out there has used this or done it. Does it work? Does it not? Maybe we even experiment. I guess, it's just baking soda. So
what harm can it do?
We'll see.
Let's not find out.
All right, so stay tuned. Like, follow, subscribe if you want to see that for a future event here. And then we're going to take bets on how fast we can run.
There you go.
400s and 800s. This
definitely not in the 45 to 50 seconds.
Probably not. If we do, we need to start signing up for Olympic events and get USA track and field involved. Yep. So once again, this podcast is brought to you by us, Resurgence Physical Therapy. So if you're in the New Jersey area and need some physical therapy care, feel free to reach out. And we will see you next time.